This is one of our more challenging questions, and there's a couple different ways that we can handle it. Let's take a look at what the question is asking. The teachers at Austin High School are scheduling the classes so that each one is happy. The students in each of the 4 grade levels have been split into 2 halves, 9A, 9B, 10A, 10B, etc. The classes that each teach will teach daily is given on the table below, but the times at which they will meet is yet to be determined. The schedule should allow 1-hour blocks for each class, with the first class starting at 8 a.m. How can you mathematically represent the problem of scheduling times for each class meeting, and how are you representing each teacher in each class? Well, typically what we've had up until this point is, let's say we had like our executives with the meetings, right? So with those executives, the meeting, the 2 people that were meeting were connected, and then the color of that edge was going to be their meeting time. The problem is that we don't really have like a teacher meeting with another teacher. We have a teacher meeting with a schedule. So we could do a couple different things. The first item that we could do is remember this graph, right? We could do a bi-part graph, and that would be where we have the teachers aligned on one side, and then we've got the classes aligned on the other, and then we would make connections between those classes and the teachers. So the challenge is this. I went ahead and started to draw that just that I had it ready to go. And this is what it looks like. Oh, I didn't mean to take that away. Right? So that is a fairly complicated graph. And so I'm not so sure that coloring it is going to be necessarily an ideal situation. So what I did is I kind of took another route, which was to color code a table. So the second thing you could do is color a table. And by coloring the table, you're understanding that you're representing it as this type of graph here, but you're on the table coloring each edge individually. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So I'm going to start out with one color first. And of course, you know, I always start with my yellow. Each one of these folks can only meet with one yellow class. So we're going to call that our 8 a.m. class. And then we're going to have a green class, and we'll call that 9 a.m. And then we're going to keep going with our classes. Let's see here, we'll have orange. So orange will be 10 a.m. Now, how do I know how many colors I have? What I'm going to do is find out how many classes are each in these. Because remember, our number of edges, our highest degree, is at least the minimum number of colors. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. All right, so it looks like 6 is my main number. And so I'm going to go ahead and find 6 colors. So this would be 11 a.m. And then I'll go into, let's see here, magenta. That will be noon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll pick up that new color, lavender, which is 1 p.m. Okay, now we're scheduling one right after another. We know in reality, right, that there'll have to be lunch periods and breaks and time to change hallways and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here's what I've done. Instead of, right, down here I could say, okay, Mr. Kirk, he's going to do the 9A group, which means Mr. Gill has to pick a different group. So he's going to teach the 9B group. And then Miss Butler has to pick a different group, so she's going to do the 10A group. And then Mr. Herring is going to pull the 10B group at that time. And then Mr. Larkin is going to do 11A. And then Mr. Clark is going to do 11B. And we'll let the seniors start off at a different time, right? So that would be an example of what our edge coloring starts to look at. Well, what does that look like on a table? So 9A, 9B, 10A, 10B, 11A, 11B. So what I've done is actually taken the concept of graph coloring and kind of put it up into my table here. Okay, so then I could take a look at my second color, and that would be my other graph I might do. So maybe 10A goes on this next time slot. Well, then that lets Mr. Gill do 9A at that time. And then that will give Ms. Butler an opportunity to do 11A at that time. And then Mr. Hearing could do, can't do 10A because that's already taken. He could do 12A at that time. And Mr. Larkin could do 10B. And then Mr. Clark could do, what could Mr. Clark do? Mr. Clark could do 9B. All right, so in other words, in here we could do the same thing. So 9A, 9B, we could do a 10A, 10B, 12A, 11A. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that what we had down here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. So it may not match up exactly with the bipart graph, but I find that the table is a lot more manageable to deal with. And again, you can always go back in and then fill in those colors on that graph. And then I'm going to go ahead and take, let's do the orange, which is our next color. So orange, that's 10 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and get 9A here, 9B, 10A, 10B, 11A, 11B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I'm done with that color. And then I move on to the next one, which is the blue. And so I'm out of 9th grade classes, but I can do 10A, 10B. I can do I can do 12, let's see here, 10A, 10B, 11B. I could do 12A and 12B. And then just leave that open. And then do the next color, which is magenta. So I definitely want to get the 11A done and 11B. 12A, 12B. And then my last colors would be the 12A and 12B. Okay, so that's one way to tackle it. And each of those times would be its own time slot. And the strategy was to make sure that you picked a different student group each time with a different teacher each time. So each row equals the teacher. And then each color is a time slot. Okay, So if you're having difficulty or you feel overwhelmed, and again, over here, I think I did something even different, right? So if you feel overwhelmed with this type of graph, this is probably your best bet at actually drawing a graph and getting it done. But if it really makes you struggle to get that done, fill out your table first with colors and then just go ahead and mimic those colors on your graph. I know I didn't necessarily put these together, so be careful about making sure that these match because I guarantee you they don't. But that is a strategy that you could use to get through that. What's the largest number of classes that can be held at 8 a.m.? How do you represent the times the teachers will hold a particular class? Our times equals colors, right? And the maximum number is when everybody has a class, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So number of classes that could be held at 8 a.m. would be 6 classes. All right. So I hope that helps you on that one. And we will get into these next questions in a bit.